So I had pretty much recorded this entire video, but it turns out my phone had died. And no, not died. It ran out of storage. So I used it as a webcam and also to get my audio. But I realized that that's probably like the fifth time I've recorded a video and pretty much lost all of it. So I probably need to get an actual webcam. So I'm gonna order that so this doesn't happen anymore. But pretty much I did a reaction to Meruem versus Beru, and I'm not going to go into the same depth as it because I'm not going into it fresh. But instead, I'm going to share my points just on his scaling for Beru. He uses a quote from the light novel saying that the firepower of the S-class hunters are equal to that of a nuclear bomb. And then he also states that like an S-class, a national rank hunter is someone that is on par with the an entire country's military might. Now, what he does scale Beru to is city level, and of course, he also scales Meruem to this kind of same level or Meruem above it when he enters his rose form. Now, the only problem I have with this is that, of course, it just turns out that they are similar strength before giving Meruem his transformation, and I just disagree with this wholeheartedly because I feel like it doesn't scale so leveling properly.
How strong is the Ant King? Now, to get a general idea, it is very important to understand where he generally sits at in terms of inverse scaling. Beru, not only was he able to defeat every single S-rank hunter from two different regions tasked to annihilate the Ant Queen, but was also able to complete a load of Gotoryuji. Gotoryuji is considered to be the strongest hunter in Japan, possibly possessing powers that could contend with national level hunters. You see, these types of hunters are stated to rival a nuclear warhead in terms of pure firepower and possesses enough strength to rival a country's military might. This is obviously not the ceiling of their powers, but more so just the criteria the world has put to classify these hunters, which means that national level hunters are much stronger than that requirement, seeing how Thomas can push base Rakon to partially transform, and Gotoryuji should meet the same requirements based on various statements despite being cleared by Beru, which basically means that the Ant King should exert force relative to that of 50 megatons of TNT, making him city level in terms of attack potency for being able to withstand the strongest nuclear explosion in history. This could be backed up by the fact that Jinwoo thinks that Beru is stronger and more durable than Baron, who in the anime generated an explosion that can put him at the same tier. It's also very important to note that Beru could be estimated on levels much higher than this, but due to the lack of additional information, this should be his proper level. Now, when it comes to speed,
my first couple of points are, firstly, the world has been reinforced with magic, so every feat is kind of amplified by that, because the buildings are not, because not only is the world, like the earth itself, reinforced with magic, but also they build buildings with like magic, if that makes sense. So buildings are reinforced, streets are reinforced, and then the earth itself is reinforced. So all feats are kind of amplified because, and the reason why the world is reinforced, spoiler here, or kind of a spoiler, it's more of a lore thing, is because the earth is being used as a battlefield, and that is pretty much what the monsters are. They're the first like wave of that battle, and also, or at least the monsters are there to kind of help the humans get stronger and strengthen them. That's why the world was flooded with magic. That's why we got hunters, because these hunters are there to be the protection or the defensive line against the coming the coming threat. So that's why the world has been reinforced with magic. Now the next thing is the scaling for an S rank gate. So an S rank gate, to say that it's only city level, because an S rank hunter requires an S rank gate requires S rank hunters. You're not beating an S rank gate without S rank hunters. Like as they're going through the ant nest, they were saying like, yo, each of these ants is S rank, but they're only monsters. So they don't have strategy, they don't have tools, they don't have like plans. They just have like brute force and magical power. So you have to have S rank hunters deal with S rank gate, and then clearing an S rank gate is like the requirement to become a national rank hunter. So before this S rank gate opened in Jeju, there was another one that opened in America, which unleashed Kamish, who was pretty much a dragon. He was the boss of the gate because they weren't able to clear the gate. Now, because they weren't able to clear the gate, there was a dungeon break, and Kamish rampaged across the west coast. And the quote used is that he destroyed the west coast. Now, what I argued is that he's not naming a specific state. It doesn't name one state or two states. It doesn't say. I even argue if they only destroyed California alone, right? If you only destroyed part of California, it would still scale higher than city level, because he puts Meruem above Beru for having a feat that eviscerates a mountain, which puts it at like 500 megatons of force, right? Now, I argue even Beru, before becoming a shadow, stronger than this, because 500 megatons, and then he scaled them base at city level at 50 megatons. So it's about a 10 times difference. My argument was that to destroy the West Coast as a S rank gate dungeon break boss, you're definitely much stronger than 10 cities. Just to kind of put it that way, he probably destroyed more than 10 cities, right? So Kamish scales to the West Coast, whether you want to think that's just California or a combination of states. And even California alone is the size of bigger than a lot of countries. So honestly, by him scaling to the West Coast, another S rank gate dungeon break boss, he would be above country level. I think that's a reasonable statement to make. That's ignoring the reinforced world as well. Now, above country level already, right? And then I'd even argue that Beru might be superior to Kamish, because what Beru is an anomaly even after the dungeon break of S rank gate. So they were not able to clear this S rank gate before in the past. It was already S rank. And then there was a dungeon break. And then after this occurred, then Beru was also brought forth, because they weren't expecting Beru, not even probably. And they were supposed to be able to handle this gate, especially with Goto Ryuji there, who was supposed to be able to clear an S rank gate, who has a claim as a national rank hunter, or was the closest claim as a national rank hunter. And I don't think it was unreasonable that he was approaching that territory. So, but despite this, Beru made quick work of him. So that means Beru is leagues above what a national rank hunter is supposed to be around. So he's leagues above whatever an S rank gate is supposed to represent. Not to say Beru is stronger than Kamish, but I'm saying that there's an argument to be made that he possibly could be a lot stronger than Kamish. So Beru should be able to at the very least, replicate the feat of destroying an entire country-sized space. So putting it, even if it's not country-sized, you think he can destroy 10 cities, which is what Meruem was scaled at, which was 500 megatons of force to destroy a mountain. You don't think Beru can destroy 10 cities? You don't think a couple mountains were destroyed for destroying the West Coast? Just stuff like that. So that's why I think that people in general, they kind of downplay solo leveling, mostly because of that world feat. The world is reinforced, and then on top of that, they forget that one feat, because of course things aren't really seen. They aren't destroying like cities all the time because they're fighting in the cities. They're usually fighting within the gate, or they're not destroying like massive swaths of area. Mostly, again, it's because everything has been reinforced with magic. And then after that is that people still live in those areas, so they can't just like full out destroy them. But I think later on we'll get clearer like visual feats to represent like the level of strength that the series is on. But I argued that this level of strength is a lot higher currently, especially when you reach that S rank territory. S ranks are not just walking nukes. Their basic attacks are like walking nukes. and their full powers is probably, like they said, on league with countries. So they're definitely being able to. Some of them will start reaching, honestly, planetary with enough time. So we'll see that. But that's really it.